Doctor Who will soon be returning to our screens, with Jodie Whittaker taking over as the 13th Doctor. The casting of a female Doctor is probably the single biggest thing to happen to the show since the first generation, way back in 1966. So, what better time to look back at each of the Doctor's eras so far? Join me for the trip of a lifetime as I recap the very best of each era, revealing some of my favourite Doctor episodes and moments along the way. The 10th Doctor's era is the one that got me, and so many other fans, into Doctor Who. It's the first exposure I ever had to the show, and so the earliest era I have memories of watching as it was broadcast. Series 1 had re-established Doctor Who as a must-watch TV show in the minds of the British public. With Series 2 and the subsequent Tennant series, the team built on this success, allowing the show to reach new levels of popularity. David Tennant's 10th Doctor is arguably the quintessential new series Doctor, and, as proved by polls, the most popular Doctor with the British public. Love him or hate him, it's not hard to see why the 10th Doctor was so successful. Youthful, dashing, witty and energetic, this Doctor had a wide-ranging appeal. Tennant's portrayal of the role captivated new and old fans alike, even managing to attract teenage girls to watch the show, whilst the outline of his clean-cut, pinstriped suit gave him an instantly recognisable and iconic look. So popular was his Doctor that when Tennant decided to leave the show, the BBC were unsure whether Doctor Who could survive without him. In short, he was the Doctor for a whole new generation, and without Tennant's contribution to the show, it might not still be here today. Joining the 10th Doctor on his travels were a number of companions, new and old. In Rose, Martha and Donna, we were given some of the show's most developed companions. Each had their own life and their own complicated relationship with the Doctor. And in a bold but brilliant move, RTD brought back 4th Doctor companion Sarah Jane Smith for an episode, giving her a new lease of life. Equally, in terms of monsters, the Tennant era introduced and reintroduced many famous foes. In addition to the Daleks, a wealth of classic era monsters returned, given 21st century makeovers. The Cybermen, the Master, the Sontarans, Davros, even the Time Lords, and not forgetting the Macra, of course. Added to the show's rogues gallery were enemies such as the Ood and Jadoon that would go on to feature in subsequent stories. Of particular note are the Weeping Angels, who, after appearing in just one episode, became one of Doctor Who's most popular monsters. So popular was the show by this stage that it was attracting household names as guest stars, often in its most prominent roles. Who would have thought we'd ever see Catherine Tate, Kylie Minogue and Bernard Cribbins as companions, or John Sim and Derek Jacobi as the Master? Over the course of the 4 years that Tennant was the Doctor, RTD built a world around the show. 2 spin-off shows were quickly commissioned by the BBC to capitalise upon the show's wide-ranging target audience, each featuring established characters from the main show. Torchwood, starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack, was a darker, more adult take on Doctor Who, while Sarah Jane returned for a more child-friendly series on CBBC, The Sarah Jane Adventures. The Tennant years built to an impressive climax in the form of The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, the Series 4 finale. Though the 10th Doctor's actual generation came a few episodes later, this story feels like a truer celebration of his era. As well as crossing over with the show's spin-off shows, it featured all of the 10th Doctor's companions, from Rose Tyler to Sarah Jane Smith, Jackie Tyler to Captain Jack, Mickey Smith to Martha Jones, even Harriet Jones got a brief cameo. Doctor Who truly was back, and more popular than ever before. The 10th Doctor's era broke new ground for the show in many ways, and its legacy will never be forgotten. So which are my favourite stories from this era? Rise of the Cybermen / the Age of Steel. A fitting reintroduction for the Cybermen that uses the narrative device of the parallel world to great effect. It allows both Rose and Mickey to bump into alternate versions of a deceased family member, while Mickey ends up staying behind to replace his alter ego Ricky at the story's climax. Effectively, this story acts as an alternative Genesis tale for the Cybermen, showing as a race of the creatures developed alongside those seen in the classic era. In short, an easy way of avoiding continuity problems. Human nature / the family of blood. Set against the backdrop of an ominous pre-war England, this two-parter asks the question, what if the Doctor was human? Alter ego John Smith shows us a whole new side to the Time Lord's character, whilst allowing writer Paul Cornell to explore the highs and lows of human and Time Lord life. It's a tragic tale, and one that is rightly held in high regard by fans. Silence in the library / forest of the dead. For much of this story, the audience is left in the dark, both literally and metaphorically. Who is River Song, the archaeologist that claims to know the Doctor, despite him having never met her? What connects an eerie, planet-sized library to a distressed little girl? And what's really lurking in the shadows? The Library two-parter is a masterclass in writing by Stephen Moffat, full of twists and turns that keep the viewer glued to the screen throughout. It's a story that I was freaked out by as a child, but also one that always fascinated me, and still does to this day. Midnight. Though conceived as a last-minute replacement for another story and a companion light episode, Midnight is easily one of the best entries to Series 4. RTD managed to use the lack of a big budget to the story's advantage, coming up with an intimate chamber piece that uses a handful of guest characters and only one main set. Compelling performances from all involved, an intriguing monster concept, and a taut script all help to make Midnight a story to remember. The Waters of Mars, my personal favourite from the 2009 run of specials, and a serious contender for my favourite Doctor Who story of all time. The Waters of Mars explores the idea of fixed points in time, questioning whether or not it is right to challenge the natural course of events. It's a tragic Doctor Who tale if ever there was one, taking the character of the Doctor to a darker place than ever before. Furthermore, we are given what is arguably the show's most terrifying alien creature design in the form of the Flood. In short, a modern classic. For my favourite 10th Doctor moment, I've chosen the iconic I'm the Doctor speech from Voyage of the Damned. Coming early on in the episode following the crash of the Titanic, it's a defining moment for this Doctor, prompted by Rixton asking who he is and why he's in charge. The Doctor's confident response asserts his identity, whilst assuring the survivors that he will save their lives, as well as those of all 6 billion people on the planet Earth. Tennant's delivery is spot on, whilst the camera zoom, heroic soundtrack, and sparks flying in the background all help to give this moment a truly epic feel. I think it's fair to say that in response to his question, Rixton definitely got more than he bargained for. What do you love about the 10th Doctor's era? Post your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to join me next week as I look back at the 11th Doctor's era.